Here goes Larry. Larry from Lakewood, Colorado. KRKS is the station. Hi, Larry.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm calling in because my wife listens to the station and she encouraged me to call in. So,
Well, thank you.
we have a teenage son, a senior in high school, and different issues with him. But one thing that we wanted to talk about would be that he started smoking the last year or two, and we're trying to find a way to talk him out of it. But of course, we tell him. Or I've been talking to him about it, that it's bad for him and going through that whole scenario, and that I'll even take him to some place where people are dying in a hospital that have been smoking all their lives, just to see that it's not a fun thing at the end. And
The initials,
like that,
the
and
initials
nothing
for
seems
that,
to really work.
the initials for that are WOT, waste of time.
Waste of time.
Waste
okay.
of time. Okay. Now I can only tell you what I did, and maybe you could implement something like this. But I told my daughter, you see, smoking isn't just smoking. Smoking is a symbol of a lifestyle that involves many other things for a high school student, because all high school students know that smoking kills you. So you've got to really be willing to be in rebellion and involved in other. You just don't see these Sunday school children picking up a cigarette. You see kids that are hanging out with the wrong crowd, the wrong influence, doing other things. I would wonder if he was smoking marijuana in addition to smoking cigarettes. I would wonder if he's heavily involved sexually with girls. I would wonder about a lot of things that are represented by a kid who decides to smoke. Now, I would be saying to him, I've kind of messed up here. I've kind of been a little too lenient on you. But here's the way life needs to work. I want to give you a car. I want to give you a college education. I want to help you with your life. Maybe one day I can even help you make a down payment on a house if you decide to do that. But in order for me to do that, you're going to have to get in line with some values that I have. And you can choose smoking, or you can choose the things that I have to offer you. But I can't support you and give you all those things if you're going to be involved with smoking and drinking and sex and all of that. Now, I started my daughter young with that thinking. I told her that driving is not a right of yours, it's a privilege. You don't do sex, drugs, alcohol. You can have that privilege of a driver's license. Then you can have a privilege of a car. You can have a privilege of a college education. But if you want to go the other way, I am not going to. You don't have the privilege of me supporting that lifestyle.
Okay.
That's pretty tough, but you want him to stop smoking, and you want him to stop the other things that go with it.
I don't know if he's doing all the other things you mentioned, and
well, he's sure not going to tell you about that.
And and he won't. And I don't know if I sat down with him, just really honest one-on-one talk, if he would ever tell me those things.
Right.
I would hope that he would, but
right.
If we would have that kind of conversation. But I think you're right. He's wanting a car, but you mentioned the car part, and he wants a car, but we don't want him to spend time and energy with that right now, because we want him to focus in on school.
Why are you so afraid of him?
Yeah.
Why are you so afraid of your 18-year-old?
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to take the sergeant approach.
Well, I'm not telling you a sergeant approach.
Up, my dad was. We always had a good relationship with my dad, and I was one of those that never really argued with my parents a lot.
But that's not.
And I guess I'm using that same model.
Yeah. Well, don't use that model. Don't use that model, because he's not you. He's a unique individual. And what I'm giving you is not the sergeant approach. I'm giving you the Garden of Eden approach. You can have all this stuff, just don't touch that tree. So here's all this stuff as your father I want to give you and help you with, but here are the things that you have to avoid if you want all of that. If you want this, there are consequences with it. And yes, there is a danger that he would just fly off the deep end and do all sorts of things, but there's also a danger that you could be supporting a lifestyle that involves smoking and drinking and other rebellious behaviors. We'll talk with Mylon and Jill, get their thoughts on this right after this. You're listening to New Life Live, and Talking with Larry, and his 18-year-old smoking, wants to know what to do to try to stop it, and I've given my 2 cents. Now let's hear from Jill and
Well,
Mike.
and it was really worth more than 2 cents,
Thank
Steve. Larry, I think that, it's really great that I hear you trying to connect with your son and doing something different than what was done to you. Sometimes, though, in an effort to not repeat the past, we go to the opposite extreme. And I just have concern that maybe you are being so gentle with your son and fearful that you don't want to push him away, that you aren't giving him some standards that he needs to hit up against, which means there may be some conflict when he doesn't like your standards. But to wrestle with those things, through those things, can really be helpful in helping him to come to his own place of thinking. And I would also be, I heard you kind of maybe minimizing your son's behavior, maybe not sure of what he's doing. And I would do a little investigating. Look at his friends. Ask him about his friends. Because usually the type of people he is hanging out with, he's usually involved in those kinds of things too. So if you would take more action, if he was doing more, take that action now before it gets to that point.
Yep. What do you think, Mylon?
Larry, do those things resonate with you a bit?
Oh, absolutely. I've thought about all of those things. Some of his friends are good kids. Some of them are, some of his friends are not good kids. So I already know that.
Okay.
And I'm trying to create a balance because I don't want to lose him either. I feel like if I come down too hard, I may lose him, and he's going to want to move out of the house or
what kind of grades?
Whatever it is, and if that happens, I guess then he has to kind of wake up to the reality that that's going to be his decision. But I don't really want to push him in that direction.
But Larry,
that's kind of what I'm struggling with.
I know, and that's what I'm hearing. I think that fear is keeping you from maybe saying what you need to say. And,
right.
This isn't just about, putting some boundaries around these behaviors. It's also talking about, how he feels about things, how he sees himself, kind of why does he need this? What does it mean to him?
What kind of grades does he get, Larry?
He's one of those kids that does very well on the ACT and SAT tests. He scores way above the national average, but then he gets A's, B's, C's. So he's like 3.0, but a school would look at it and say this is a very bright kid, but he's kind of goofing around, and that's the best way to describe him.
Does he have ADD?
I don't know. I never have.
Well, the reason I ask is because he might be self-medicating with caffeine or a stimulant to try to help himself focus. Did you ever explore or think of that one?
No, haven't really.
He might be reliant. A lot of people have a smoke to calm down and to focus.
Let me
or
just tell
even
you.
weight issues.
When I was going to Texas A&M, I was smoking.
Yeah.
Now, I have attention deficit disorder. I did not know it at the time, but it was
Did
always
it
a weird thing to me that I made the best grades that I had ever made in my life, my first year of college. And I really believe, and have come to believe, that it was the nicotine that was stimulating the brain and calming me down so I could focus and study like I never studied before.
I think I said caffeine a moment ago.
Yeah,
Nicotine.
but caffeine also works with
Caffeine
ADD.
does that too. I mean, if I feel a bit overwhelmed or a little ADD-ish, if I have a cup of coffee, it settles me down. So I'm just wondering if there's a secondary thing or a reason, part of this addiction, it may have some reasons why he enjoys it, likes it, utilizes it, needs it, has become dependent upon it. And I would include that in your conversations
it might be physiological
as well. There's a physiological benefit.
Instead of just social.
And not just a social, although they could be interlinked.
Because you're trying to understand why such a bright kid would do something that is so devastating to his health.
Well, that's what I'm struggling with. But to me, I think my impression is it's just a statement of rebellion, because my wife is more of the type that wants to bring in more discipline. I'm the type that wants to just talk to him. And
listen to your wife. Listen to your wife. Up the connection, and up the consequences.
Okay.
But Larry, you called. You called because your wife told you so.
Yes, she did.
Okay, so now we know what the pecking order is there. And what I would really work on too is, I would work on all these goals with the two of you together, sitting down with your son. That both of you have something to learn. Your wife needs to ratchet down, and you need to ratchet up.
Right.
You guys
Be a
can
good
do
balance.
that. You can do that.
That's the direction that we've been trying to go in, and so I think the immediate concern is I just don't want him to continue to be hurting himself, and I don't know what other activities.
And you may discover that you're not doing some things not because you don't want him to hurt himself, but you're doing them to make yourself feel better. And I know a guy that his heroin addict son stopped doing heroin once he admitted, I'm enabling this kid. Not because I'm trying to help him. I'm literally helping myself feel better.
Right.
Okay. I know that's tough to hear.
Right.
Okay.
But as soon as he's 18, he's an adult. And so that's when
right.
you come back to the quid pro quo. What do you want? If you want to be dependent, here's the rules for the house. But also, what does smoking cover up? And I think we're back full circle again to where you started, Steve.
Right. All right. I hope that's helpful. I'm going to send you How We Love for You and Your Wife. I'll send you Boundaries with Teens because he's going to be one for a couple of years. Hope those will be a blessing to you.